Um, on social media, you'll often see I guess the phrase "stay in your lane." I I'm actually not a fan of that phrase, but I
Oh,
hear it a lot, particularly, and I hate to say it, particularly from people in the hard sciences.
yeah.
Exercise science. It's always stay in your lane, stay in your lane. They might criticize a medical doctor or a physical therapist, athletic trainer, strength coach, or whatnot. And I'm a firm believer that everyone can have an informed opinion, whether or not they have formal training in it.
Mhm.
I think where people run into issues is they often have an uninformed opinion, and that's where they get attacked. But just because just because you don't have a PhD or a medical degree does not mean you can't comment on the relevance of a study as it applies to your athlete. So when I see that stay in your lane stuff, I always cringe a little. I'm like, no, you got to know your limitations, right?
Mhm.
And you got to know which questions to ask. And I I think there's context lost when people just say, "Oh, stay in your lane. You don't know what the hell you're talking about." And in a way, it's like, and this is an old analogy. You guys will appreciate this. It's like nails on a chalkboard, right? Everyone's like, "What the hell's a nail on a chalkboard?" But anyway,
What's a
so
chalkboard?
what are your thoughts on that?
Oh man, I wrote what I consider a scathing article on LinkedIn. Go look for it. About first thing, hate it, hate that line, don't like it, never used it. It's for soft people who lack confidence, knowledge, and whatever else you want to put in there that's abrasive. It's a soft organization. It's not. It's somebody who's fearful of their own right. Like stay in your lane. I would never. So when I started the high performance model at CSUN, I made sure like, hey, look, everybody should have an opinion about what's going on here. So my example in that was got a nutritionist, got an athletic trainer, got a strength conditioning coach. Uh, we all start from the same uh, academic background, right? We all start physiology at one, biology one. We all do that. And then as we get going, then it goes nutrition, and then we branch off, much like physicians do. They all have a core belief there, right? But enough start of the same sort of academic rigor that I should be able to discuss. Well, it's not really fair for me because you guys have turned me into a nutritionist almost here, but be able to comment on that. I think the operative word is informed, right? As long as you have an informed opinion, then you should bring something up. The last thing I want to do, and this is where the stay in the lane thing really gets to me, is hey, no, if you're not, you do your own job, I'll do mine. And I think, well, I don't want to do yours, but you're so bad, you're not helping me do mine. That's what I'm saying, right? So I'm able to say something about it. And here's a perfect example of something that's practical. If you have an athletic trainer in the weight room while you're lifting, I can only see so much. Hopefully I can see enough. But the minute I help somebody and there's somebody doing you know how kids are. You show them how to do something here. By the time you get down to platform 5, they're all jacked up again doing some who knows what, right? And you got to come back and help. But to have an athletic trainer watch somebody perform a bad squat, allow them to do it, and they get themselves hurt. And then we figure out what happened. And the trainer says, well, I mean, I saw it, but that's not my place. I'm going to stay in my lane. Well, now somebody's hurt because of that.
Right, right.
Same thing like in the athletic training room, right? They've only got so many eyes and hands, and they're rehabbing somebody, and they're rehabbing legs and backs and trying to get this kid back. Well, they're trying to get them back to exercise without limitation, right? Which is the correct way to squat and deadlift and all that. So if a strength coach walks in there and they're doing something that nobody would consider a deadlift the way you would in the room and just let it go like, well, that's not my place, that's wrong. You got to pipe in there. I mean, it's a safety mechanism, but more than anything, I just think it's a system that's weak. If you have a system where people stay in your lane, we're not asking you to go outside your scope of practice. That's different, right? But we know just enough about everything, just us three here, to be able to say, I don't think that's enough protein,
Mm-hmm.
or I
Mm-hmm.
think that deadlift doesn't look right. Or how long did it take to rehab that ankle? It was only a grade 2. It's now the 7th week. Like, well, it doesn't seem right.
Yeah.
Those are the kind of conversations that should pop up in a safe environment, and where, again, what we do is we fix things. Not fixing me. You don't fix you. You want to help other people. And so that's, you're going to have to put that aside for a minute. It might bruise you up a little bit, but in the end, the intent is going to happen the way you want it to be. Okay, we fixed that and we're helping somebody.
I like that answer. Stay in your lane. What do you think, Tony? Stay in your lane?
No, I think a couple of people during COVID probably should have. There were too many interior designers talking about following the science. Maybe that was the most appropriate time. But other than that, the lanes, the lanes are on a highway, right? And you can still ride next to somebody. You can still share the same highway, and you can still see what they're driving. So as a result of that, hey, I think I'm always open to collaboration or thoughts and input, and I've had it a lot. And I just come back and say, okay, well, here's my thinking and why. But you bring up a great point. And under those circumstances, you may be right. So I love the dialogue. Sometimes I love the thinking. That isn't what I'm thinking, but that's good thinking. So we share lanes. I think that's how we all can get better. And like Bob said, if it's done cool, respectfully, hey, what do you think about this? What do you think about that? Why don't you try this? Great. Absolutely.
I think because there's a difference between asking a question and questioning. Mm-hmm. I don't like to get questioned, but I'm certainly responsive to a question.
Yeah.
Right.
Yeah.
I think those, and the intent behind, I don't know about creatine. I mean, there's a couple of guys cramping over here. Like, whoa, wait a minute. If you say, like, where are we with the cramping now on this thing? And then that's okay. So now you're asking, and I'm going to help you a little bit, and that should answer both questions, right? The one that you're really asking that's disguised as a statement, right? And then the actuality of it. So I don't, and this thing evolves rapidly. Like freaking Joey, I mean, the way I ask questions to him all the time, I'm not gonna jump out there knowing how fast this thing evolves in terms of science and nutrition and all that. So he gets the questions from me all the time. Hey, are we still doing this with this thing and that thing? Like, yep. Like, okay, good. I just want to make sure, like, as you never know,
changes fast.
Yeah. I mean, really fast. So I do think of it in terms more of a system. Like, when you look at the high performance system, you can't have everybody in their lane. And so that's where that term, I don't know if you guys have heard this, but everybody talks about interdisciplinary. Mm-hmm. The newer term is transdisciplinary. Interdisciplinary meaning a team of teams, and transdisciplinary meaning one team. And that's the one I like. I like the one we're all talking all the time. We're going to have that we can really, then there's a consensus, a safe consensus, instead of waiting like, I thought that was, not enough protein, but it wasn't my deal. Like, no, that doesn't work.
Well, Bobby, thank you for being on the show. Hey, congrats on your new position with the Los Angeles Angels.
Thank you.
Yeah, that's fantastic, Bob. I go out and buy an Angel hat this week, I think.
You guys come in. I see when we come down to it. How far are you guys from Miami?
I'm only about 40 minutes, 45, depending upon time of day.
Yeah, he's
Devil
close.
Rays? What about the Devil Rays?
I'm about a couple hours from Miami.
Oh yeah, when you come in for the maybe if you have any Marlins games, but that would be interleague. But nevertheless, I'll go out in Tampa and say hello when you play the Rays.
Come on out.
That's a deal.
Sushi for sure.
Well, thank you. Hey, you're a sports science dude, officially. Appreciate your time. Appreciate your knowledge.
I love it.
Fun conversation and informative. Thank you, Bob.
Thanks, Bobby.
All right, guys. Take care.
Hey, bye-bye.